Nkem ran off as the five guards chased after him. When he got to a point in the forest, he stopped to catch his breath. He hid behind the bushes, and from there, he used his magic to stop the men. The men stood there with their guns, fixated on the spot. Nkem casted a spell on them that they should wake up only when someone touches them. He got out of his hiding and walked majestically away from the guards and back to his hut. Nkem packed a few things in his bag and he left for the next village. Meanwhile, Uju was waiting for the guards to arrive, but when she did not see them, she decided to send two more guards. The guards searched Nkem's hut, but found out it was gone. They saw a trail of footsteps and decided to follow the trail. They got to the point where the five guards were standing and they were surprised. They touched them and they regained consciousness. They asked the two guards if they saw Nkem, but they replied that he is nowhere to be found. The guards searched the entire forest until it became dark. They had to go back to break the news to Uju, even though they were scared. When they got back to their village, Uju told them to go back and find Nkem or they would pay with their lives. The guards were very scared. They quickly left to continue their search. As Nkem ran in the forest, he got tired and decided to take a nap. He had barely closed his eyes when he saw an old man walking towards him. When the man got to him, he found out it was his father. He was very happy to see him. His father sat beside him and told him to go back to the village because he is the true heir to the throne. He said he wished that he acknowledged people with magic and treated them well when he was the king, but he now understands that magic is a great gift and can be very helpful when used the right way. He told Nkem to use his magic to bring his people out of hunger and ensure that he takes over the throne at all costs. Nkem nodded as his father spoke and he tried to hug him, but as he opened his eyes, he found out it was all a dream. He picked up his things and off he went to his village. When Nkem got to the village entrance, the guards arrested him and dragged him to meet Uju and her son Emeka, the new king. Uju asked the guards to release Nkem and she sent them away. She asked Nkem why he came back to the village and he replied that he saw the men she sent to kill him. He reminded her of how she tried to kill him when he was a baby and how he wanted her to stop trying to kill him. But Uju let out an evil laugh. She told Nkem that she has always hated him and wished that he dies, and now that he is here, she would make it easy for him. But Nkem replied that she can no longer keep him in the cell because while in exile, he had discovered more ways of using his power. Uju called the guards to arrest him, but he stopped them as they moved closer to him. He told Uju that her son needs to leave the throne for him within 3 days, or he would take what belongs to him by force. Nkem left the palace as Uju shook in fear. She began to think of how best to get rid of Nkem, and a thought occurred to her. The next day, she visited a powerful herbalist in the next village, and she told him to give her a charm that would help her get rid of Nkem forever. But the herbalist told her that Nkem is a destined child, and she cannot kill him. He warned her that if she tries too hard, she may end up regretting her actions. But Uju was hell-bent on killing Nkem. She called the herbalist names and left his place in anger. She visited a witch in another village, and this time, she got exactly what she wanted, a very potent poison that would kill Nkem instantly. The witch told her that even a drop of the poison could wipe out an entire village, so she told Uju to be very careful with it. When Uju got back to the village, she met a group of market women protesting because they are not satisfied with the drought and the diseases plaguing the community. They wanted to bring Nkem back to the village so he could use his power to liberate them. Uju replied that she has sent a guard to look for Nkem, but it has all been in futility. She assures the women that Emeka is the right heir to the throne and he would deliver, but the women insisted that Nkem has to be the king. The women leader then informed Uju that some villagers saw Nkem the previous day and she asked 24 hours to provide him or they will not take things lightly with her and her son. The people are hungry and they are dying and they need someone who has the power to liberate them, take on the throne. Uju began to panic. She started thinking of how best to harm Nkem without being noticed. She called one of her men to go to Nkem's hut in the outskirts of the town. She told him to watch Nkem and as soon as he leaves, he should pour the poison in his food or rub it in his plate or spoon. The guard collected the poison and he quickly went off to deliver the message. He hid in the forest outside Nkem's home as Nkem prepared his lunch in his hut. Nkem got out to pick some vegetables and the guard took advantage of that opportunity. He watched Nkem walk away from the kitchen and he quickly entered. He poured the poison in his pot of soup and rubbed some in his plates and spoons and ran off. Moments later, Nkem went back inside his hut and he knew immediately that someone had been there. He opened the pot of soup and found out it has been poisoned. He hissed and went out in search of another food to cook. Meanwhile, Emeka is worried about the happenings around the village. He decided to see Nkem and discuss how he could help the villagers. He set out with a guard and they arrived at Nkem's place after a long walk. Emeka was very tired and hungry by the time they got there. He called out to him, but Nkem was nowhere to be found. He found out that Nkem was cooking before he left and he must be around as the firewood was still hot. He opened the pot and the food happened to be his favorite food. After waiting for a while, he asked the guard to dish some of the food for him as he couldn't bear the hunger anymore. He asked the guard to leave some for Nkem, so the guard did not eat from the food. Nkem arrived shortly after Emeka had eaten the poisoned food. Emeka apologized to Nkem for stealing his position as the rightful heir to the throne. He sought his help on dealing with the issues plaguing his village, but Nkem was more concerned about the poisoned food he just ate. Nkem plucked a leaf nearby and asked Emeka to eat it because he just ate a poisoned food. Emeka ate it reluctantly, but he told him that he's okay and he doesn't feel like he's been poisoned. Nkem was surprised. He asked Emeka to come with him to see his mother, and together they went to the village. By the time they arrived at the village, Emeka's stomach had begun to swell up and he could not walk very well. He was also sweating profusely. Nkem ran to Uju and he asked her if there is an antidote to the poison she put in his food, but she laughed hysterically. She told Nkem that there is no antidote and even if there is, she would never give in. Nkem then replied that her son Emeka was the one who ate the poisoned food and it happened because he went out in search of another food to eat after a guard poisoned his food. Uju stood up, scared at what she just heard. Emeka walked in at that moment, aided by two guards. Uju began to scream as she saw her son writhing in pain. She asked him to sit down and she began to question him. She started blaming Nkem for poisoning her son, but Nkem, knowing how corny she could be, quickly asked the guards to summon the chiefs for a meeting. Uju continued screaming and crying. When the chiefs arrived, Nkem brought out the god of iron and asked the god who poisoned the food to swear by it. The guard swore that Uju sent him to poison Nkem's food, but the young king, Emeka, ended up eating the food when his colleague followed him to Nkem's place. He said he would have warned the king if he knew they were going to see Nkem. At that point, Emeka's stomach had swollen more and he was losing his breath. His mother ran to the witch who gave her the potion, but she informed her that there was no antidote. Uju cried and cried as she headed back to the village and she regretted all her actions. 3 days later, Emeka died and Uju couldn't bear the shame as people pointed accusing fingers at her for killing her son. She left the village as she cries. Months later, after mourning the death of his brother, Nkem was crowned the king and the people rejoiced. This movie teaches us to do good and good will follow us. It also teaches us that when we do evil, we may be unknowingly harming the people who are close to us. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe before you leave and leave a comment below if you enjoyed this story. Bye.